Alright, hello. I have a pretty exciting video for you here with some new discoveries in how the Onyxia threat resets with the Fireball works. So I'd like to preface this with saying that I have done none of this research. This is all credits to, I believe, Autumn Rain and Canon on the Fight Club Discord. I believe Autumn Rain had the idea of checking this, and then Canon and everyone else on the Discord helped send in logs, and everyone checked them, and it seemed to line up. And now with the reset, a lot of people have tried this method out, and it's been working pretty much 100% of the time. So while technically, I guess not 100% confirmed, I would say it's very likely this is the case. So basically, and I'm just going to mindlessly make a video on it, covering it, even though I had no part in it, because, I don't know, I'm just that kind of a scumbag. So basically, the way it works, right? So people are confused about how the threat resets when an Onyxia Fireball hits the players in Phase 2 of Onyxia. Because, I mean, it's not just who gets targeted by the Fireball who gets reset, right? Because in logs and stuff, people notice that sometimes if a Fireball hits two people, sometimes the person who wasn't targeted by Onyxia got the threat reset instead of the actual target. And people are trying to figure out what actually caused this, and, you know, there's a bunch of discussions and never really came to any conclusions, but now we seem to have a pretty good idea of how it's determined. So what it actually is it's the player GUID, which is a randomly generated string that generates on character creation. Every single entity in WoW has this, but players also do, and you can't change these, and they're generated at character creation, and they're incremented depending on every time they're generated. So basically, the earlier you create your character, the lower your GUID is, and it's a hex number, and you can get yours by using this command right here. So this is the way you get your own. You just use that in the chat, and if I activate the right chat, you can see that's my GUID right there. So basically, the threat reset happens to the target that gets hit by the Fireball with the lowest GUID, which is pretty interesting. So what that means is you can have your tank find out with a couple of fancy macros I'm going to show you here in a minute who in your raid group has a lower GUID than the tank, and then just stack with that person for the entirety of Phase 2. What that means is going to happen is whenever the tank, because the Fireball targets whoever has the highest threat. So ideally, or you know, logic says that the first Fireball is always going to target the tank because the tank's going to have the highest threat going into Phase 2. So when that target happens, when the Fireball happens the first time, it's going to hit the tank's stacked with someone with a lower GUID than him or her, and then the threat reset is not on the tank but on the other person, which means that the next Fireball is also going to target the tank because the tank is still the highest threat, and then the other person is still going to get reset, and that's going to go ad nauseum basically for the entire phase, which means the tank always gets to keep their threat and never gets reset the entirety of Phase 2, which makes the entire Onyxia fight just a lot less cancerous. Like, Onyxia isn't very hard of a boss, but this just makes it a lot nicer and probably makes stuff like 10-manning it a bit easier. And it's just kind of interesting, right? So to go through it a bit slower, I guess. Basically, there are a couple of ways of finding out what GUIDs people have. You can use commands that basically just check your target or yourself, but there are a couple of good macros that the Fight Club Discord have, you know, made, and I believe Canon is the one responsible for creating these macros, so I'll show you them right now. So we have a couple I'm going to show. So the first one is this range checker, which is, I believe, this one I have right here. So it's basically a bunch of text, a bunch of scripts and shit, but basically this needs DBM, so if you don't have DBM, this isn't going to work because it's using a DBM thing right here. But basically, if we use it, which is this button right here, what it's going to create is a range checker, because Fireball range is 8 yards. So basically, when this is red, if you get targeted while this is red and it hits you, you're going to get threat reset. But if you're close to someone with a lower GUID than it, it's going to notice that and it's going to turn this circle green. So basically, that's a really easy way to checking whether or not you have someone in your near vicinity. It's very good. I'll link that in the description. Also linking the Fight Club Discord because all the credit goes to them. I didn't know into this. I'm just a sheep. Just, you know, just sharing the information, right? Just, you know, shamelessly taking part of this. Alright, so the other macro is, if you, that's, you know, very close range. It's kind of difficult if you want to check an entire raid, right? So if you want to check the entire raid, they made another macro, which is this one right here, which is another, you don't need DPM for this one, I don't believe. You can just use this normally. So what this does is you need to be in a raid group to use this, otherwise it does nothing. And I'm not in a raid right now, so I can't really demonstrate it. But basically what it does is you click it while in a raid, and then in your chat, it's going to print out a bunch of white names, basically. So every single name you see when you click this macro is going to be someone with a lower GUID than you. So that you can basically stack with any of those people. I personally prefer this one because it's just very easy. You just press it, and then you see all the names in your chat, and then you just pick one. And if you're lucky, you're off tank if you're 2-tanking it. might have a lower GUID than you if you're the main tank, and you can just stack with them, which is what happened in our raid. So I'll probably put the footage of our last Onyxia where we did this in the background. Unfortunately, none of us saved logs because we're all idiots. But I'll just show you what we did, and you can see that the fireball pretty much targeted our tank. I mean, it literally targeted our tank the entire time, due to us using this method where our tank and off tank stick together, with the off tank having lower GUID than the main tank. And then in phase 3, as it started, the main tank still had aggro, and it was very easy to kill it from there.
I have aggro.
Amazing.
So it's really cool, I think. It's just a really interesting sort of development, because, I mean, it's been said, right, that Onyxia is, like, very hard to figure out, like, how the targeting is actually done with all its abilities and shit, because it's just so strange. And, yeah, this is why, I guess, because it's just such a stupid, like, having it go off of GUID of all things, having, like, the date you created your character matter is one of the, it's really strange, but it's kind of cool, and it's actually really useful information to know, because it makes the fights just way easier. This is, like, really easy to work around, right? You just stack 2 people, and that's it. But yeah, that's all I want to say. It's really cool. Hopefully you'll give it a go next time you're doing Onyxia, and yeah, it's just, isn't classic fun? What a weird thing. Alright, again, all credit goes to Autumn Rain and Cannon and the Fight Club Discord. I am but a mere pawn. Alright, thanks for watching.